Hello friends, I am Anjali AS, PGT Bio from JNV Bijapur. Today I am going to engage a class on chemical coordination and integration. Right? The previous chapter which you have learned is nervous coordination. The nervous coordination is involving the brain, mainly the brain, the central nervous system, the brain and the spinal cord. There are a few limitations of the nervous system. One is it is very fast, very quick and short-lived. And other one is the nervous coordination can take place two places where only nerves are connected, from the place where the nerves are connected. So to complement that one, we have another system of coordination for integration, that is the chemical coordination. So today we are going to start with the new topic, that is chemical coordination and integration. Chemical coordination and integration. These chemicals are secreted by glands which are called as endocrine glands. We have already studied in the tissues that there are two types of glands. One is endocrine and the other one are exocrine. Exocrine glands, as you have studied, are duct glands. That is, the secretion of these glands are relayed through ducts. Whereas the endocrine glands, the secretions or the biochemicals that are produced by endocrine glands are directly released into the blood. Released into the blood. And so these glands are called as ductless glands or endocrine glands. So today we are going to study about these chemicals, how they are accepted by the cells and the tissues, target cells and the tissues, and what are the disorders. So in this chapter we are going to learn all these things. So first let us study what are the secretions of the endocrine glands called. The secretions of the endocrine glands are called as hormones. The word hormone is derived from the Greek word which means hormone. The Greek word hormone which means to excite. Okay, so the word hormone is derived from the Greek word hormone, which means to excite. Okay, so these molecules which are produced by the endocrine gland are directly released into the blood, and through the blood they reach the target organ or the target cells. So through the blood they are reaching there. The target cells should have special receptors. Only those cells which have got receptors will be able to recognize the hormone. So that is the relationship between the cell and the hormone. So the blood will be having a mixture of hormones which have been released by different glands, but they can excite only those cells which have got receptors for the particular hormone. Right? Follow? Or I will give an example. For example, the endocrine gland like thyroid produces thyroxine. The thyroxine is directly relayed into the blood. The target tissues will be having some receptors to receive those thyroxine molecules. Only those cells which are having receptors will be able to get excited, and they will continue with their function. So let us define what are hormones. Hormones can be defined as secretions of, so hormones are non-nutrient biomolecules secreted by endocrine glands. They are non-nutrient biomolecules secreted by endocrine gland, and they are accepted by the target cells. They are accepted only by the target cell. Next question is, what is the amount of hormones that is produced? The amount of hormones that is produced by the endocrine glands is in very trace amount. Only a small quantity of these hormones is sufficient to excite a organ. Therefore, hormones are very, very important. They play a very important role in our day-to-day life, in our hour-to-hour life, in our minute-to-minute life. Okay, so these are the hormones that are making us live lively. Let us now go to locate the hormones, the endocrine glands in our body. So here is the location of the endocrine glands in our body. Okay, the most important master of master gland, the hypothalamus. Below it is the pituitary. Then here is the pineal gland. So in our head region we have got three endocrine glands: hypothalamus, pituitary and pineal. As we come below, you can see here we have got, in the neck region we have got the thyroid gland. Just along with the thyroid we have got four small dots here in the thyroid gland. They are the parathyroid glands. In the chest, you can see here as well as here, there is the thymus. Just below the stomach there is a long such structure. In between the stomach and the small intestine, at the junction there below, we have a small structure like this. This is the pancreas. Above the kidneys, on both the kidneys, we have a pair of glands called as the adrenal. Then, in the case of males, we have the testis, which is a mixed gland. In the case of females, it is the ovary. Both of them together are called as the gonads. Both of them together are called as the gonads. So these are the endocrine glands which are located in different parts of our body, and they are carrying out different functions. So we will start studying the endocrine glands one by one. The first one which we are going to study is what is called as the hypothalamus, which is situated in the brain. It is responsible for many of our daily behaviors, hunger, emotions, controlling our emotions, and it also plays a very important role in the chemical coordination. The hypothalamus, below the thalamus. So this is our brain, what you can see here. On this side, you can see the position of the hypothalamus. It is at the base of the diencephalon. The location of the hypothalamus is at the base of the diencephalon. At the base of the diencephalon, we find this gland called as hypothalamus. Okay. What is there in the hypothalamus? The hypothalamus consists of cells called as nuclei. They are very special. They are called as nuclei, and because they are secreting hormones, because this nuclei cell secrete hormones, they are called as secrete hormones. They are called as neurosecretory. They are called as neurosecretory cells. So these neurosecretory cells of the hypothalamus are very important. They are secreting certain hormones which are going to excite the cells of the pituitary. Therefore, this one is the highest commanding gland. Pituitary is called as the master gland. Pituitary is called as the master gland, but he is, or the hypothalamus is the master of masters. So sometimes hypothalamus is called as the master of master. The hypothalamus is called as the master of master, whereas the pituitary, on whom the hypothalamus is controlling, is called as the master gland. Is called as the master gland. Now let us see how the hypothalamus is controlling the pituitary. The hypothalamus controls the pituitary by producing two types of hormones. Hypothalamus produces two types of hormones. Some of them are called as releasing hormones, and some of them are called as inhibiting hormones. So there are two types of hormones that are produced by the hypothalamus. Okay, the hypothalamus is producing two types of hormones, releasing hormone, and so let us see which are they. How do we write them? In short, we are writing them like this: thyroid, TSH, releasing hormone; gonadotropin, releasing hormone. Okay, like this way we have got it. The releasing hormones secreted by the hypothalamus are TSH, thyrotropin, releasing hormone; gonadotropin, releasing hormone; adrenocorticotropin, releasing hormone; growth hormone, that is releasing hormone; again prolactin, releasing hormone. So they are called as releasing factors. Okay, so the growth releasing hormone here is somatotropin, whereas the growth inhibiting hormone is somatostatin. This is one thing what you have to remember. The hypothalamus is having both a releasing hormone and a inhibiting hormone. Both of them, if they are in balance, the growth of the organism will be well balanced. So this is how hypothalamus is producing two types of hormones. Now stop. The pituitary is called as the master gland, but it is under the control of the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus therefore can be called as the master of masters, as I have already said. Now the neurosecretory cells of the hypothalamus are producing hormones which are carried by blood capillaries in the first half of the pituitary. So it is relayed through the portal system. So the first half of the pituitary receives through a portal system hormones through a portal system, whereas the second half, called as the posterior lobe, receives receives through the nerve endings. So it receives through the nerve ending. Therefore, the posterior lobe is called as neurohypophysis, whereas the anterior lobe is called as adenohypophysis. Hypophysis means the pituitary. Other name for pituitary is hypophysis. So pituitary is divided into two: adenohypophysis, that is anterior lobe, and neurohypophysis, that is the posterior lobe. The anterior lobe is further again can be divided into pars distalis and a middle one called as pars intermedia. Pars intermedia is understood to be a part of the intermediate lobe. In most of the mammals, there is an intermediate lobe, but in human beings, there is no intermediate lobe as such. There is no marking, proper marking in between the anterior lobe and the intermediate lobe. It is considered to be a part of the anterior lobe. So we have anterior lobe that is divided into two: pars distalis and pars intermediate. Whereas the neurohypophysis is made up of pars nervosa. Pars nervosa. Okay. Now let us try to list the hormones that are produced by the anterior lobe of pituitary. They are FSH. FSH means follicle stimulating hormone. Okay, they are present in males as well as the females. They are produced under the influence of gonadotropin releasing hormone of the hypothalamus. So the hypothalamus, or the master of master gland, releases gonadotropin releasing hormone. Under the influence of gonadotropin releasing hormone, the pituitary releases follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone. Separately, they are found in males as well as in females, and they are responsible for producing ovum in the case of females and producing testosterone in the males. The female and the male hormones are produced only because of the influence of the FSH and LH. Adrenocorticotropic hormone is going to affect the adrenal glands to produce mineralocorticoids. They are responsible for maintaining the water and electrolyte balance in our body. Next is the prolactin. Prolactin releasing hormone of the hypothalamus stimulates the pituitary to produce the prolactin hormone, and this hormone is going to help in the development of the mammary glands to produce milk. Okay, so it is going to help in the development of the mammary gland, especially in the females. The pars intermedia is going to produce a hormone called as MSH. It is melanocyte stimulating hormone, where melanocytes are going to be activated. The posterior part, here the posterior part, the hypothalamus is synthesizing the hormones and storing them in the nerve cells there. Whenever it is required, it is released and passed through the nerve cells, nerve endings here, and it is released into the portal system, the blood, from where it is going to be carried to all the parts of the body. There are two hormones which are produced. One is oxytocin and the other one is vasopressin. Vasopressin is also known as ADH, an antidiuretic hormone. ADH is antidiuretic hormone. Vasopressin is required for the relaxation of uterine muscles at the time of parturition, and vasopressin is responsible for maintaining the water balance in our body by stimulating the tubules of the kidney. So these are the functions of the glands or the hormones that are produced by the pituitary. Next we shall go to see the next organ, that is the pineal gland, which is present in our brain. So pineal gland, it is located in the dorsal side of the brain, the lower part of the forebrain, and it is responsible for secreting a hormone called as melatonin. Now what is the function of melatonin? It is responsible for maintaining the 24-hour cycle, that is the circadian cycle. It means the wake and sleep cycle. It is understood that melatonin is produced during the night, which makes us feel sleepy when it becomes dark, and the secretion becomes less at daylight. So melatonin is responsible for the wake and sleep cycle what we live. It is responsible for maintaining our normal body temperature. It is responsible for the defense in our body. It helps in metabolism. It is also helping in the pigmentation of the hair and skin. So that is all about a very small gland that is there at the base of the brain called as the pineal gland. Next we shall go to thyroid. Okay, the next gland what we are learning is the thyroid gland. Where is the thyroid located? The thyroid is located in the neck, in our neck here, and it has got a shape of a H, or you can say it looks like a butterfly. It is on the two sides of the larynx. Okay, so it is in the shape of a H. The bridge that is there in between here, that tissue mass is called as the isthmus. It is called as the isthmus. Okay. What is the gland made up of? The gland is made up of, or it consists of many follicles. Follicles means sacs. These sacs are made up of, they have a covering of some cuboidal cells. These cuboidal cells are synthesizing two hormones. The name of the two hormones is triiodothyroxine and tetraiodothyroxine. T3 and T4, triiodothyroxine and tetraiodothyroxine. They are able to synthesize these two hormones with the help of iodine. Iodine is the precursor for the synthesis of T3 and T4. Other than this, thyroid also is responsible for the synthesis of another hormone called as calcitonin. So they are T3, T4 and calcitonin are the three hormones that are secreted by the thyroid gland. The hormone, any hormone for that matter, is to be produced by the gland only in small quantities, in the quantities that is required by the body, not more nor less. If it is produced more, then that is called as hypersecretion. Secretion more than the critical amount is called as hypersecretion. Less than that amount, it is going to be called as hyposecretion. So here, if the thyroid is producing more amount of thyroxine, then a disorder called as hyperthyroidism occurs. Example of hyperthyroidism is Graves' disease. In the case of less secretion, that is hypothyroidism, diseases like goiter. In the case of adults, diseases like goiter occur when the food that is taken contains less amount of iodine, and the the thyroid gland is not able to synthesize sufficient amount of thyroxine, then the person is likely to suffer from diseases like goiter in case of adults. In the case of pregnant women, if they have not taken sufficient amount of iodized salt or food containing iodine, then their babies are likely to be suffering from diseases like cretinism. Okay. So that is about hyper and hyposecretion. Now what are the functions of thyroid gland? The functions of the thyroid gland are, first one, very important, it maintains the basal metabolic rate. All the reactions are being maintained properly because of the thyroid gland. Next, it supports in the formation of blood formation, that is RBCs, formation of RBCs. It helps in the breaking and making of carbohydrates, proteins and fats. And lastly, it maintains the water and electrolyte balance in our body. So these are the functions of thyroxine. We said that there is another hormone called as calcitonin, which is also secreted by the thyroid gland. Calcitonin is responsible for maintaining the calcium level in blood. It is helping in maintaining the calcium level in blood. Yes. Parathyroid gland. This gland, it is made up of 4 glands that are located on the back side of the thyroid gland. Okay, on the back side. On the back side of the thyroid gland, there are 4 such glands. And this gland plays a very important role in maintaining the calcium level in blood. When the blood level when the calcium level in the blood becomes less, this hormone is secreted. What does this hormone do? It draws the calcium from the bones. It helps in the more absorption of calcium from food as well as from water. Thereby, it tries to increase the amount of calcium in the blood, and so it is called as a hypercalcemic hormone. So, hypercalcemic hormone is parathyroid gland. Next is lymphocytes. This organ is located in the dorsal side of the heart and aorta. In the chest cavity, it is located behind the heart and the aorta. And it produces a hormone called as thymosin. And this thymosin, its main function is to help in the differentiation of lymphocytes. Not only helping in differentiation and maturing of lymphocyte, it also helps the immune system to produce many antibodies which are required for the defense of our body. Now we shall study the adrenal gland. The name itself says adrenal, above the renal. Now which is the renal? Rena means the kidney. Above the kidney there is a crown of tissue, and that tissue is an endocrine gland. Its name is adrenal gland. The adrenal gland is very important. It is divided into 2 parts. We divide the tissue into 2 parts. The middle one over here, like this, what you can see is the renal medulla. And the periphery, what you can see here, is the adrenal cortex. Right? The adrenal cortex is made up of 3 layers again. It is divided into 3 layers. The innermost is the zona reticulata, followed by the middle layer, zona fasciculata, and the outermost, zona glomerulosa. So they are 3 layers of the adrenal cortex. Okay, the outermost is zona glomerulosa, zona fasciculata, zona reticulata. So what is their function? Their functions are to secrete some hormones which are generally called as corticoids. They are generally called as corticoids. The main corticoid produced by glomerular is a mineralocorticoid, which is responsible for maintaining the mineral and electrolyte balance in our body. The corticoid produced by fasciculata is glucocorticoid, which is responsible for the metabolism of glucose. And the sex corticoids like androgens are produced by zona reticuli. Now, adrenal medulla. The adrenal medulla is producing two important steroidal hormones called as adrenaline and noradrenaline, or adrenaline is also called as epinephrine and norepinephrine. These hormones are important because they are helping us whenever we face fight or flight situation. Fight or flight situation. When we are at stress, when we see a snake suddenly, a very long snake, what happens? Either we have to fight or fight. That situation is going to be faced only because of the secretion of the adrenal medulla. Which are the two hormones? They are the epinephrine and norepinephrine. Okay. So next is the pancreas, which is lying at the junction below the stomach or at the junction of the duodenum. Now here at the duodenum, in the digestive system, you have learned that the pancreas is producing the pancreatic juice, which is helping in the digestion of food. So this pancreas is called as a composite gland, or it is also called as a compound gland, mixed gland, because it is having both the functions. It works as an endocrine gland as well as a exocrine gland. Exocrine function is it is producing digestive juices. Endocrine function is that it is producing some hormones. Which hormones? Let us see. So it is lying at the junction of the duodenum. Okay. It has got some cells which are called as islets of Langerhans. It has got cells which are called as islets of Langerhans. And these islets of Langerhans are of three types. There are some cells which are called as alpha cells, there are some called as beta cells, and there are some which are called as delta cells. What is the function of the alpha cells? The alpha cells, they help in the synthesis of a hormone called as glucagon. A hormone called as glucagon. The function of this glucagon is to increase sugar level in the blood by glycogenolysis, by breaking the glycogen. Okay, glucagon breaks glycogen into glucose, thereby increasing the sugar level in the blood. It also helps in gluconeogenesis. What is gluconeogenesis? Making of glucose. So glucagon is going to help in increasing the blood sugar. So it is called as hyperglycemic hormone. Hyperglycemic hormone because it increases the sugar level in the blood. The beta cells, they secrete a hormone called as insulin. This hormone helps in reducing sugar in the blood. How does it reduce sugar? The insulin helps the cells to absorb the glucose that is present in blood, thereby reducing the sugar in the blood. It activates the hepatocytes and the adipocytes to take more amount of sugar and they convert the glucose into glycogen. They convert the glucose into glycogen. So this is how both of them are helping in maintaining a balance of glucose in our blood. One is hyperglycemic, the other one is hypoglycemic. When a person is hyperglycemic, he is said to suffer from a disease called as diabetes mellitus. Diabetes mellitus. The delta cells, they secrete a hormone called as somatostatin. They secrete a hormone called as somatostatin. Thus, the pancreas plays a very important role by acting as a exocrine as well as a endocrine gland. Now, the gonads. The gonads are two, one in each individual. In the males, the male gonad is the testis. In the females, if it is a female, the female gonad is the ovary. These are the two gonads. The hormones produced by the testis is a hormone called as testosterone. Called as testosterone, which is produced by the cells in between the seminiferous tubule called as the Leydig cells, or they are also called as the interstitial cells. They are synthesizing testosterone. What is the function of testosterone? The function of the testosterone is to produce the male characters, the secondary characters, mustache, wider shoulders, etc. All such characters are produced because of the activity of the testis, which is producing testosterone. Also, it is playing a very important role in spermatogenesis, formation of the sperms. In the case of female, as I said, the female gonad is a ovary. It is producing at puberty, it is producing the hormones like estrogen. The ovary is producing hormone called as estrogen. The growing ovum. After the ovum is released, whatever remains behind is a triangular substance called as corpus luteum. Corpus luteum. This corpus luteum is producing a hormone called as progestogen. Called as progestogen. And during pregnancy, these two hormones are produced by the ovary called as relaxin and inhibin are two hormones which are produced only during pregnancy. So the ovary is acting like an endocrine gland only during pregnancy. But normally during the life of a female, two principal hormones, estrogen and progesterone, are normally produced by the ovary. So with this we conclude this chapter, chemical control and coordination. Thank you.